Sunday morning rain is falling. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. John Mayer used to be his big. Okay. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's me, Dr. Romo. So this is a part 2 of the video that I did in regards to grant writing. After I watched the video and I was like, okay, I hit the important stuff I wanted to get to. I realized that I didn't tell them an important aspect about grant writing. Like, the whole point of the grant is not to just talk about your project. It's to ask, excuse me, that was embarrassing. The important aspect of the grant writing is to ask for money. Okay. And when you're asking for money, you need something called a budget, my dear. You need a budget, okay? So that was the key thing that I forgot to mention in that video is a budget. So when you come across a grant application, they're going to have the grant application itself. They're going to have a proposal narrative part. And that's when you can that goes back to that first video that I did in which you can tell the story. That beginning, middle, end. You tell the story of what your project is all about. And why you need money to do this project. But there's another aspect of the grant writing called the budget narrative. And the budget narrative aspect of it all is you telling a story about this proposal through numbers, but specifically through how much things are going to cost. Okay? So it's pretty much having a budget. What is your budget for this project? And I just want to highlight that whether it's grant writing, whether you're starting your own business, whether you just in your personal life, you're going to always need a budget, boo. Budgets are important because it creates a framework for how you are realistically going to do this work. And I emphasize realistically because as somebody like myself who is a dreamer, who loves to create and do shit like that, you can get lost in the fluff. But what a budget do, and we see this in our real life, what a budget would do is bring you back to reality, okay? And when you are approaching these funders for the grant that you're working on, you want to bring them to reality. Like you want to take them on a ride, you want to tell them a story and whatnot. But you want to let them know hey, I know what I'm saying to you might seem a little, it may not have been done before. But based off of the numbers from my budget, okay, this shit is realistic. That's why you gotta fuck with me, okay? That's why you got to fuck with me. That's why you gotta fund my work. Because budgetly wise, I don't know if that's a word, but financially, this work is possible. And it will be possible through support like you, through your support. And so a budget narrative is very important when you're grant writing. And I'll say, for example, with this last grant that I did, sometimes a lot of people don't know what to ask for. And what I like to do is I see how much they giving. Okay. What I'm working with right now. Who I'm fucking with right now. Okay. Now, if it's a family foundation that only gives out maybe $100,000 a year, then maybe, and then, so I know that they give out $100,000 a year because that's what they wrote on their website. Okay. Then most likely they'll have past grantees, and I would see how much they gave. Now, if I see that they've given $2,500, then I'll probably be a little apprehensive about asking for $50,000 from them. However, I'll probably ask for $10,000, And so, but that's the approach that I utilize. And I've seen, other fundraising teams do that too. When you have an understanding of how much they're willing to give, you can curate your budget or your budget narrative to make it more appealing to them to give to your work. So again, I see how much they're willing to give. And for this particular grant, the first thing I did was like, ooh, they giving out a lot of money or whatnot. Let me just throw out this big number that I want. But then I was like, that's stupid. Because, did they not close their door? Oh, sorry. Pay attention. I won't say it's stupid, but it's reckless. Because you're really not, what I was doing, I really wasn't thinking about how much this work is actually going to cost to execute. So I put out that number of I put out $250,000. I'm like, okay. But then I was like, okay, I need to be realistic. What is my budget narrative? And the way that you know how to build that storyline with your finances or with your budget is truly understanding how you want to engage in this work. So the proposal narrative part and the budget narrative, they essentially work together. They just feed off of each other. So if I say that for this proposal, I want to travel and host different types of community events, then I need my budget narrative to reflect that. So I need my budget for this project to reflect traveling. So the cost of traveling, the cost of lodging, the cost of transportation, the cost of lodging. I needed to reflect maybe party supplies, not party supplies, but like event supplies. I need the budget to also reflect maybe the cost of food, based off of how long I'm going to be doing these particular dinners for. So if I'm only going to do the dinner once, then I'll put in my budget that the cost of this dinner will be this price. But if I'm going to be doing this dinner maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the year, then let's say, for example, the cost of the dinner was $1,200 for one time. I need to make sure that if I'm going to talk about doing these dinners on a quarterly basis, which would be 4 times a year, I need to make sure that that's reflected in the budget. So it's going to be 1,200 times 4, which, what is it? 12 times 4. So 2 times 4, that's 8. And then 4 times 1, that's 4. So that's going to be I want to say 48,000, but I feel like that's a bit of a stretch. So I'm going to say it's 4,800 because it's 1,200. That's 2 zeros. Then 2 times 4 is 8. Yeah, I'm going to say 4,800. So when I'm writing my budget, I shouldn't just put 1,200. I need to put 4,800 because that reflects how that money is going to be used throughout the year for this particular line item. So again, the budget narrative and the proposal narrative, they work together. But you have to make your budget narrative make sense with your proposal narrative. And so that's why you when you understand how much things cost, it allows you to make a stronger case as to why the funders' money is needed to make this project come to life. And going back to the example that I was talking about for the proposal or the grant that I worked on, I put out a number out there and I was like, okay, let me see if this actually makes sense. And so when I actually wrote out what I needed in order to do this project, the number that I put down, that first number, was too small. Oh my goodness. So I was limiting myself. And that's another thing, is that a lot of people, when they hear budget, they hear limitation. Budgeting is not limitation. limitation is it's a tool to empower you to make the best decision possible, so you're not fucking up your money, or you're not fucking up how you presented yourself, especially in regards to grant writing. So again, when you're building out the budget for this for your grant, I think a cool way to do it, I'm speaking off the dome here right now, I think a cool way to do it is that when you're writing your proposal narrative, because that's like the fluffy part of it, that's like, come on a journey with me real quick. Let's imagine a world where your money can make a change, okay? And so when you are writing that proposal narrative, and when you highlight the things that you will need in order for this project to work, make sure you have the numbers to go with it. So if you're saying that there will be 3 personnel, or we'll have 3 team members working on this project, when you write your budget, or when you write your budget narrative, you're going to have a line item for personnel, okay? And you're going to put how much it's going to cost to have these people doing this particular work. Now, and that cost is built off of, whatever your hourly rate is, or whatever, their salary is, or, whatever you wish to pay them. But again, I think it's important to understand that the budget and the proposal narrative, they work together. So don't ever forget about your budget when you're writing a grant. And when you are writing that proposal narrative aspect of it all, highlight the areas that is going to cost money, so that you're not trying to figure out, okay, I wrote that this is what I need, but now I have to translate that into the numbers aspect of it all, into the budget of it all. When you already have a good idea of it, and you've already highlighted it, in your proposal narrative, in my opinion, I think it'll be easier for you to quickly translate that, instead of having to feel like you have to start from scratch to kind of build this budget narrative. So again, one mistake that I made, I wouldn't say it was a mistake, but it was kind of like a backwards type of thing. Well, writing the grant that I did was, I said, how much they paying? Okay. I had an idea as to what I want the project to focus on, but I want to know how much they paying. Okay. And so, but if I would have fully wrote out my proposal narrative, and like I was just suggesting, highlighting the areas that I would need money for, when it came to doing the budget narrative aspect of it all, it would have been much easier for me to break down, to show that breakdown. So the way I did it, it was just backwards. So, you can do it that way, but you can also do it in a way that you just want better cohesion when you're telling your whole proposal narrative. And that includes the writing, the fluffy part, but that also includes the hard data, the numbers part. So, excuse me. So yeah, I just wanted to share that information, because I was like, oh man, I forgot to share that key thing about writing a grant is you need a budget, boo. Always have a budget, okay? And you should always have a budget ready, especially when you write that grant. And how I mentioned, oh Lord, the croakiness is coming. Oh shit. Oh, spilled water on myself. But you should always oh my goodness. Well, y'all, the change has occurred. But no, in all seriousness, you should always have a budget narrative ready. Because let's say that the funder may not need it at that moment in time. When they do need it, you don't want to waste no time. You stay ready, so you don't have to get ready. That's what they say, right? Stay ready. Always create your grant application in a way that funder is going to say, oh, could you provide us with more information? When they hit you with that, you provide us with a little bit more information, you got their attention, okay? And grant writing is very competitive. And it's also a politics game. So if you got their attention, don't waste their mother effing time. Always have that budget ready. Okay. All right. But thank you all for watching. I hope y'all take heed to this information. I hope it's helpful. And I will talk to y'all again. I think I'm gonna, I was like, do I have any more grant important stuff to share? I think another thing that I would share, but I'll do that most likely in another video, is about the grant reporting. That's very important too. In other words, the grant reporting is, how the hell did you use this money? And did you do with it what you said you was going to do with it? And did your project even work? Okay. But I'll talk about that in another video, I think. It just all depends. And so, yeah, but that's about it for me. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye. Adios. Okay.